Michelle and Eric. How are you? Love you both.
Hi, Elisa. Oh, this is in the way a little bit. Let me just kind of readjust
Who's
this.
that? The
Oh my
microphone?
gosh. Yes, it is. Okay. Here we
Okay.
go. There we go. Um, Eric says, "Love you, Mom." And I love you too. We're doing good. Eric
Good.
says that he's already been chatting to me a little bit about this, so he's he's excited, and I really am interested in this topic.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating. And it might
Yeah.
have to be not this is part two. We might have to have a part three.
Yeah.
So we got so many questions. So all right, here's a long one.
Hmm.
I was walking in the redwood forest in Northern California a few years back. I keep hearing brownie, and I saw out of the corner of my eye little people hiding behind trees. They were probably making keto cookies or something. What was I seeing? How do they live? Do they live in houses or in tree cavities or how? Yeah. Um,
Um, So Eric says that okay, the person that's asking this question, there's a connection, there's an earth connection. This
hmm,
person must really enjoy being in the outdoors because they have like a family. There's like a family connection. Now these particular beings, Eric says, they're more interdimensional. So they'll move in and out of dimensions. They don't necessarily live on the earth. And he says that it's that way for a lot of them. They may
I
have
like
been
Bigfoot.
more on the earth,
Yeah, like Bigfoot. That's why we can't
like
find them.
Bigfoot.
They in and out of dimensions.
Exactly. Exactly. But he says that they are lower to the ground. So you'll find them more in the base of the trees, he says, under leaves. And they're the type of little beings that are, he says, like they'll help you if like you're lost on a path, you can call upon them. Like, which
Oh,
direction do I go? Can I go this way? And it's really interesting because I was a brownie, like Girl Guides,
yeah, I
brownies,
was a brownie
all that. I
too.
don't know if
Yeah.
right. Okay, so I was the brownie, and so Eric keeps showing me that like the brownie salute, and I will always do no harm, and I will, he's like giving the little
Oh.
um and so he's saying that there's truth to that because the brownie is like a little leader. It's like,
Oh.
I will do good, I'm a leader. And so he's
Oh.
also connecting to this person that's asking the question that you are also a leader and you are here to help others.
Oh. All right, so here this same person goes on. What do they eat if they eat at all?
Mm. He says, on earth, yes, they do eat. um he says a lot of minerals, berries. um he's just laughing because you had said cookies, and he says, Girl Guide cookies. He goes, they
Girl
would
Scout
eat cookies if you
cookies.
leave them out. They would eat cookies. They like
Oh,
they like little sweet treats.
oh, that's so
Hmm.
cute. So,
Hmm.
so many of these cryptids are aliens. Are these brownies aliens?
He says that they're all a derivative of alien.
Oh,
They all
cool.
of them. At some point, some maybe a little more than others, but yes, they are. He says like cousins.
Okay. Why are they in the woods?
That's their home. That's where they feel most comfortable. Their energy, like the nature, they're caretakers. So working close with the earth. So uh, it's also very quiet too. Eric said that in the wooded areas, there's less noise, there's less
Yeah,
commotion.
yeah,
It's more peaceful. Eric says, think about how many times, when we talk about going and getting connected with nature, walking in the woods,
I know.
being with the trees. There's a lot of energy that also comes from the trees, and the trees themselves are very mystical. The trees have so much to offer us beyond their beauty and their strength. But he says that the trees are can be doorways, interdimensional doorways. The trees will open up for these little beings,
Oh,
and they'll travel through to other dimensions and spaces. And so they're very comfortable with the trees, and the trees protect.
Cool. So whoever made Keebler cookies, they were channeling that stuff. All right. So when I do Native American chants to the elements, are they included in my prayers, the elementals? How
Yes. Yes.
many species of elementals are there? I mean, you could just give the number of digits.
Well, there's quite a few. Erik says, like, well known, there's about 12 different ones that
Okay.
are more known to us. But he says there are many that are not known, that we don't have labels,
Oh,
or
okay.
a like we would maybe say that's a gnome, that's a fairy, but
Okay.
they're maybe slightly different from what we would know or recognize in
Oh,
our folklore, or what we think
okay.
is folklore.
Do the nature spirits mess with the weather, like causing hurricanes and tornadoes?
No, Erik says not really to that extent. They can mm, not interfere, but they can assist with rain. They can assist with because he's showing me like gardens and needing water, needing rain, needing
Okay.
sun. So they can work with elements of light to assist with whatever we might need. Like Erik's showing me a person who is inviting fairies or inviting beings into their garden, and say their garden is very dry, or they're having a lot of difficulty growing in the
Oh,
soil that it's in. And so working with the elementals, working with these beings, they can help bring whatever substance is necessary to help that garden grow.
nice.
Yeah.
Okay, this person has a small pond in front of their house. Wants to know if they like it or if they're even around, and what can I do to invite them, even if I'm in the city, or is it even a good idea to invite them?
Erik says, number one, it's all about your intention.
Mhm.
So when you're inviting any beings into your pond or onto your land, into your home, what's the intention? And he says, so for you, particularly, the intention is to bring, he says, magic, a sense of well being, a sense of peace.
Mm.
And he says, so you want to connect with that energy. And he's suggesting having flowers. He's saying put color
Oh,
around your pond. The ones that are there for you are attracted to color.
okay.
And if you have a dog, because he's saying that there's some nervousness around loud noise,
Oh,
and he's showing me a dog, so there might be a dog present that they are a little bit wary of.
okay. Um, would they ever show themselves if we asked, or can they even hear us? You know.
They can, they can hear us. Erik says that they're vibrational. So just like when we're channeling any other energy, so they hear us through frequency. Some of them do. He's not really saying it's like physical ears, but they do have. He says like animals, birds, like high pitched frequency,
Oh,
so they can tune into us. Can we see them? They don't normally like to be seen.
mm,
And part of that has to do with trust and their safety.
yeah.
So when you're trying to invoke seeing one, Erik says, commit yourself to the regular connecting of. So day after day after day, he says, don't give up. He says, talk to them. He says, offerings, like, offer them some flowers, make a comfortable little space for their energy. And he says, you're going to connect with them. You more likely see them on camera than you're going to see them with your
Oh,
eyes. But he says, there are many people that have seen them. The way that they'll likely show themselves first to you is as light. So the way that many people describe angels, he's showing me like little bursts of light. So
yeah.
they'll show you these little bursts of light. So you'll start to get signs of
Oh,
their presence there.
oh, cool. How do they communicate with each other? Telepathically, or do they have some special language or something?
Um, what is Gaelic? What is Gaelic
Oh,
language?
Gaelic, yeah, Gaelic, yeah. It's a dying
Yeah.
language, but it's
Okay,
related to
that's
Gaelic.
what he just said. That's what he just
Yeah.
said. Yeah. And he says that there is tone. There is tone. Some of them do have vibrational, um, telepathic communication. And he also says music, sound.
Oh,
Some of them make sound. There's like a chime that's coming from my chest, like a vibration. So they
oh,
have like a sound that they can send out as well. It depends on
oh,
exactly, what they are and what they're doing, what their purpose of communicating is.
interesting. Uh, how do they feel toward us? Humans.
He says that over many years, and unfortunately because of a lot of what our culture and on earth, what has changed with a lot of industry and breaking down of forests and of wetlands, all of those things. Eric says that that's part of what that trust is, because that makes them sad. There's like a
Mm,
sadness to them because of that.
yeah.
So Eric says that's where a little bit of that trust, because they're not 100% sure of all humans and what their intention is. So he said they have an ability to be able to scan our vibration to understand what our true intention is. And that's why
Nice.
you may have one that has more communication and talks about their communication with their fairies, their elementals, and another may not, because
Yeah.
it takes time to develop that true intention. So overall, he says they do love humanity, like they understand the purpose of humanity,
Hmm.
but they are a little wary of
I
us.
can imagine. So am I. Is there anything we should do to help them?
Eric says closing the gap of that bridge of communication, acknowledging their presence, speaking to them, playing music for them,
Mm.
thanking them. He says because they they do things for us. Often we do have certain human beings do have relatives to the fairy realm,
Oh,
meaning there's part of our soul or elements of our soul that has existed in a dimensional space that is connected to fairies.
mm,
And we may be here experiencing an incarnation that they're well aware of, that they're learning from us. So Eric says, communicate and thank them. Thank them for assistance. Thank them for being part of your life. He says, also children. He says, allow your children, because children connect to these elementals very easily,
I
and
can
they tend
imagine.
to see them, feel them, hear them. And he says, so rather than dismiss what children are saying, he says, connect with the children, allow the children to put up the fairy houses and to um, put out like little drawings. He's showing me clipping little drawings of fairies all over the place. It makes them feel welcome.
Oh, that's so sweet. Now, so I don't live near the woods. How do I get my fairy time, my nature spirit time?
Well, Eric says, Mom, you have water.
Mhm.
You have the element of water. You have grass. You have a garden. And he
Mhm.
says that for you, he goes, Mom, when you're in the garden, you are in an amazing state. He says you get a lot of recharge
That's
from,
true.
or meditative energy from working in the garden. He says, so when you're in the garden, he says that's a time where you could just say, Hey, I know you're here. Why don't you
Eh,
come out and help me with the garden? He says, allow them to be part of that process with you.
okay. Any interesting like beliefs, customs, etc. that they have?
He says that they are very musical,
Mm.
um, ceremony. So they enjoy celebration.
Ah,
He says that some of their celebrations might not be exactly the same as ours, like timing wise, but
yeah.
they do celebrate like rebirth. He's saying that there's time of rebirth, and he says that think of what we do Christmas in the winter or in December. They have one in the spring, so it's
Okay.
like a springtime celebration,
Yeah.
and that's when all of the elements like they're in rebirth. So
Oh.
that's a celebration time for them.
Do they What's a fairy circle, for example? Is that a celebratory thing?
He says it's a communion. So a fairy circle can be it's intention. Like he says, if you think about a circle, a communication circle, a seance, anything that we come together and we're
Yeah.
connecting our vibration.
Mhm.
So this can be done with the elements, with the fairies. We can do this with them. We
Oh,
can call them in and have them in our space and work with their energy.
well, that's very cool.
Mhm.
Oh my God. Definitely going to be a three-parter. Um, what wisdom, knowledge, advice do they have for us?
Mhm. Erik says the biggest thing for them to teach us is about patience
Mm.
and doubt. He says that because they are beings that we've been taught through our generation, through many generations here on earth, that they don't truly exist. Because
Yeah,
there's many people that say, well, that's in stories, that's what children are interested
the
in.
fairy
He's
tale.
showing that's right, the fairy tale. And he says, take that element of doubt and say, well, what if I believed in? What if I believed that this was true? And he says, and also patience to understand that there are many beautiful things in the world that are
Mm,
not seen with the physical eyes.
yeah.
And that if we trust and if we start to invite them in and be open to them being part of our world and have the patience and also the discipline. He says that they're very disciplined, and that's something that is very encouraging in connecting with them, is if we have the patience and the discipline within us to continue to work with them,
Okay,
they will come back and work with us.
awesome. So we say that, some live in trees, toward the bottom, under leaves, etc. Any other kind of homes or structures that they live in? You talked about fairy houses. We could make them little houses, but
He says there's some that ones that are bigger, like have bigger wingspan, and they are up higher. So he's showing me like mountains, mountaintops, a higher elevation. He's showing me like where oxygen might be a bit restricted for
yeah.
us. They're able to go up higher, and he says these particular ones are connected more to the archangels,
Oh,
and so they're keep showing them as quite big. They've got
okay.
a bigger wingspan. What else, Erik? He says water. Some of them are in the water,
Mhm.
within the water. There are some that will live right in our homes.
Oh,
Um, he's showing me these little, they look like they're like little gnomes. They look like little gnomes, and like they live in closets. And what's so interesting is Erik says, think about your socks that go missing.
oh yeah. Oh,
And he says, these are the little gnomes that live interdimensionally in little spaces like cupboards and closets. And
oh,
they
that's so
take
cute.
trinkets, they collect
Mhm.
trinkets.
Like little
And he
shiny
says,
things like crows.
yes, yes. And he says,
So
there's truth.
cute.
There's truth to those that say there must have been a little gnome that took it.
Oh, all right. Do they have gods? Do they worship any deity?
He says, yes, it's much like the way that we understand source. They understand Mother Earth, like
Okay.
the earth and the source. He says that because some of them are interdimensional, we're also starting to get into conversation of other universes as well.
Oh,
So there
yeah.
are other sources
Oh, other
present.
solar systems. Cool.
Mhm.
Where is their other side? Or do they have a separate afterlife? Or do they even die at all?
Erik says that there are some that do not pass,
Oh,
that they have a continuous, they're not physical,
okay.
they're vibrational,
Oh,
but there are some that do. And he says, and these are the ones that we are directly connected to that can incarnate in different realms,
Oh,
different
okay.
experiences.
Is there is their afterlife the same as ours? Where Eric is?
It can be, because what Erik says is there is a choice to the afterlife. So if the soul is made up of, if the home, he's saying the home of the soul has had more lifetime, or from a frequency that is more, he's explaining it like more of the fairy realm, the elemental realm, that's
Oh,
where they feel most comfortable.
okay.
And so he says there are also human beings on earth that will go back to a fairy realm as well.
Interesting. It sounds like fun. Do they procreate and have families?
They have relationships. He says that they do have, he says, very deep connections, very deep
Mm.
love connections. He says that they do pair. Sometimes they will have more than one pair, so it doesn't necessarily have to be a lifetime pair. Uh, he says the ones that are physical. So he says they're interdimensional, so they can move from like a physical to non-physical,
Mhm.
much like a lot of the ETs can do as well.
Oh,
But
yeah.
he says so those ones, it's more like seeds. He says it's like
Okay.
growing seeds, not
Okay.
growing in the body.
Oh,
It's like
I see.
growing seeds.
Did they have a family unit like mom, dad, kids?
They
Did they
tend to
have
be
genders?
bigger. They
Uh-huh.
tend to be bigger.
Okay.
He says they do kind of have a gender, but it's he says it's more non-binary.
Okay.
Like, yeah, when it just not really, they don't really identify. They more identify with how they like to present themselves.
Okay. Interesting. All right. Gnomes freak me out. Change my mind.
Oh, Erik just said, he goes, okay, so what is the lesson of the gnome? He says, let's
Yeah.
back it up and think about what the gnome is. He goes, did you know that the gnome is actually to teach self-love?
Oh,
He says
really?
the gnome is to teach self-esteem, because the gnome is often been known for being not very attractive. um
Oh,
he says like the troll under the bridge, the
yeah.
gnome.
Right,
And he
right.
says, and so the reason why that had come about and why that belief had come about is because they were often pushed away for being unattractive,
Mm,
and their isolation or their loneliness would then lead to anger, like
mm,
not being very friendly because they felt pushed away. So he says, rather than think of them as scary or think of them as, and he says, and now, mind you, there are some that have more of a tricky intention. So you always want to be clear about who you're connecting with. But he says, all deserve love,
yeah,
all do come from a vibration of love.
yeah.
So think about it as connecting with the one that's been pushed away and that teaches self esteem. Think about when you in your life were pushed away over something, that self esteem or not being accepted for who you are. And that will help change that vibration if you come from that perspective.
So why do what's the purpose of them coming in as unattractive and hence being pushed away? They don't have a,
Self love, self love.
okay, so they're here to learn self-love too.
Yes,
All right. So they do have, some of them do have the human experience, but the
yes,
deeper spirit experience. Okay.
yes, yes.
Interesting. What do they love doing and exploring and seeing?
Um, he says they're very creative. They have many little, he's calling them like dreams that
Hmm.
they create for themselves. Sometimes that could be within traveling, that could be an experience, he says, often with human beings. There'll be some that are paired with human beings, and they have a dream to be able to connect spiritually with a
Hmm.
human being. He says many listening right now do have contracts or agreements with
Oh,
their partner, their fae partner. He says that their true nature of what they enjoy is happiness, is feeling a sense of happiness, which comes from where they are, like, so where they like to be, their surroundings, their connections. He says they're also, many of them are helpers. And so they can help in relationships with themselves
Oh,
and also with human beings too. That's interesting. Eric says you can call upon them if you're having some difficulty in a relationship, if
oh,
you need to enhance love or romance in a relationship. He says the fairies and the elementals can assist with that.
oh, that's cool. All right, let's just end up with one last question because I have a 43rd question and I have a total of 62, but I don't know
Oh
how
boy.
long or short the answers would
Okay.
be. So, does the phoenix actually exist? Phoenix rising from the ashes?
Yes. Eric says yes. He says that is an interdimensional being. Um, he says it's originated from Greece,
Oh,
and that has come from Atlantis.
oh, wow.
So there's a connection there from Atlantis to Greece. He says as we vibrationally would shift, as on Earth we vibrationally would shift, that was not able to. Phoenix doesn't exist, much like the dragon. He's
Oh,
saying
okay.
not able to exist here in this frequency. Now, what's interesting is he's showing that the fall of Atlantis, the Phoenix as being another being in Atlantis, the fall of Atlantis and the Phoenix going to higher ground and carrying others to higher ground. And so
Oh,
he says the Phoenix rising. We
oh,
often
that's where
hear
that
of
comes
a
from. Yeah.
restart, the Phoenix rising, and he says that's where that comes from.
Was there more than one phoenix?
Yes, yes,
Okay. Are they related to dragons in some way?
yes.
Cool. Are there any dragons left? You could tell me a little bit about dragons?
Yes, Eric says there are. Um, he's calling them, see if I can get this right, Montes. Uh, People have Montes. So a lot of people do have dragons that are appointed to them, that were
Oh,
appointed to a part of their soul
mm.
uh, through previous lifetimes. He says that we can call upon them. They are vibrational. They're not physical. They're vibrational. They do exist in the same realms as the phoenix. He's saying the dragons, actually, a lot of them have feathers on them.
Oh,
So he's showing them like the phoenix, um, feathered winged beings. He also shows the phoenix. I'll just tell you, the phoenix is flying and it has fire coming out of the
oh,
side of it, like almost
oh,
like it's got a
oh,
little jet with fire coming out of it,
cool.
which is why we
Where does
always
it come
see
out
that
of?
as,
Its wings?
yes, like a propeller. He said it's
Oh my God, that's
like there's smoke,
cool.
and he says that's where we would get the rising from the ashes.
Yeah. Oh,
Rising from the ashes. Yeah.
SpaceX, eat your heart out, man.
Yeah.
All right. So,
Yeah.
my daughter Michelle, has when she was young, she always, it probably still is, very fascinated with um dragons. But I thought, well, maybe she was in the Draco when she was in the Draco Orion Wars, but what's the connection there between dragons and yeah.
Well, Michelle, and I know Eric had worked with me in doing some of that investigation with
Mhm.
her soul in the Draco Orion Wars, and Michelle had ascended into Atlantis, and so she had a dragon appointed to her, and the
Oh,
dragon that she has with her is white and blue that Eric is showing me. And that dragon is always connected to her empowerment because she is a warrior.
mm.
Eric says that he also has a dragon that's the twin to
Oh,
hers.
oh, wow, that's
So he's saying
awesome.
that the two of them rode together. Um, he says that Michelle can call upon this dragon. It's with her today because she says, or he says that she is rising in her life right now. And this dragon is to lift her up and start to help her steady. in a new vibration.
Very
He also
awesome.
said that she's connected with this dragon in dreams, that she is a huge traveler in her dreams.
Oh, that is so true.
She connects through so many different realms. And this dragon, that's my throat going, Erik
Oh,
says, helps her speak and sing, helps her
oh, she's a
project.
wonderful singer. All right,
Mhm.
so last one, it's a related dragon, so much we'll ask it. What is the purpose of dragons, if any, toward Earth, humanity? And then we'll close off.
Well, Erik says that they're actually their purpose is about partnership, because although the dragon comes forward as being that lonely creature, he's showing me like the image of the dragon in the cave, like the dragon on its own, like don't wake the sleeping dragon. The purpose is to be able to have spiritual partnership with another being,
Oh,
because there
wow.
is a uh, eternal connection
Mm,
between the two, and it's there for support. And the
wow.
support goes both ways, and that's why the connecting. Okay, I'll tell them that too. That's why the connecting with the dragon is so beneficial. He says that if you are hearing this right now and you feel called to connecting with your dragon, there is a spiritual partnership for you. And he says it's very sacred, very private. And so he says this is something that you want to do in meditation. He says just ask for your dragon to connect with you, and they'd like to come and lean against you and
Oh,
lay by you. So
oh,
he says if you're sensitive to feeling energy, you'll feel the presence of
mm.
them being there. But he says that right now, the vibration on Earth is very welcoming of their entrance back into the Earth.
Oh, good. We're
So
getting
now
there.
is the time to call on your dragons.
Yeah. Awesome.
Lisa, you have a purple one,
Oh, I do
purple
have
and
a
yellow.
dragon. Oh, goody.
You do purple
Oh,
and yellow. And he says that is a spiritual dragon. He says this dragon was with you, um, helping you because you've always helped others that off of other planets, like move them to
hmm.
safety. You've
Oh,
moved
okay.
many to safety. And this dragon is like a spiritual mascot. And the yellow and the purple is like
Ooh.
the colors of spiritual ascending, of he says royalty. So you
Oh.
have this dragon with you. He says the dragon is part of the divine team.
Oh, awesome. Oh, what's his name? Her name. His or her. If any. Maybe that maybe no name.
He's showing um like Mira,
Okay.
like Meee. It
Oh, okay.
sounds long, like Mira.
Okay.
Mira.
Awesome. Oh, I'll hang out with Mira today. All right. Well, thank you so much. You guys check her out at thehealing-art.com. Love you, everyone. Please subscribe, hit the notification bell, and share with your dragon friends, fans. And I love you, Erik. I love you, Michelle.
Love you too. Erik says, love you so much, Mama. I'm right there with you today.
Bye.
Bye.